triangle. So the formula for area of a triangle is listed there below. It says A equals 1/2 B times H. B is the base, H is the height. And the way that you know which ones are the base and the height is the base is going to be perpendicular to the height. So you will always see that little right angle drawn to show that they are perpendicular. Sometimes in these pictures, they're going to give you more than you need. So you have to pay close attention. What's the next shape in the middle at the top? Rectangle, right? And it says area is equal to L times W. That stands for length times width. What's the next shape? A square. Okay, the formula for area of a square is side squared, which means side times side, because in a square all of your sides are the same, right? The next shape below the triangle is a parallelogram. That says area equals B times H. B is your base, H is your height. Again, they are going to be perpendicular to each other. Now, let me just talk to you about the rectangle. Okay. The square. And then the parallelogram. Is a rectangle a parallelogram? Are opposite sides parallel? Yes. Is a square a parallelogram? Yes. So essentially, all of these, even though they're showing separate formulas for a rectangle and a square, any parallelogram, the area is going to be the base times the height. Okay? In a rectangle, the base and the height. That's just the two sides because they are always perpendicular to each other in a rectangle. In a square, it is just one side times the other side. It just so happens that those are the same. And then in a parallelogram, your base and your height, again, are perpendicular, but because it's like slanted, your height usually goes inside of that parallelogram. But it's the same formula throughout, even though they're calling this length times width and they're calling this side squared. It's essentially the same, the base times the height. It's just these are perpendicular, so they're already, each side is a base and a height, if that makes any sense. Yes? Okay. What shape is that next one? Starts with a T. Trapezoid. Okay. And the formula for a trapezoid is 1/2 H, which represents my height. Again, the height is going to be perpendicular. And then times my two bases added together, the parallel sides, those are your bases. Your picture may be turned sideways. Okay, but whatever two sides are parallel. In this picture, they happen to be top and bottom. So it's going to be 1/2, that perpendicular height that's in the middle, times the two bases added together. And then what is that last shape? A circle. And the formula for area of a circle is pi times radius squared. Okay, pi times radius squared. When we are given area of any circular shape, okay, any circle or anything that has a circle in it, we're going to leave our answers in what we call exact form. That means we're going to leave the pi symbol in it instead of using the calculator to find a decimal. Everything else we'll get decimals with if there are any in the problems. But with a circle, it's going to have pi in its answers. Everybody ready? All right. So you have your formulas right there. You have a calculator next to you. What shape is number 1? A square. So to find the area of a square, it is your side times your side. Are you given both of your sides? Or at least two of them? Okay. What is the length of one side? 8.5. And then I'm going to multiply it by the length of another side, which is also 8.5, and I'm going to write down what my calculator tells me. Okay, the area is equal to 8.5 times 8.5, which gives me 72.25. Now, with area, you will see them give your units. What units are these sides in? What's FT mean? Feet. And when we do area, it is always going to be feet squared. Now, am I going to count it off if you do not write feet squared? No, but we are getting close to the EOC. They will have those on the answer choices. They will have the units there. You need to make sure that it says feet squared if you're finding area, because I can guarantee you that they're going to try to trick you, and they'll give you an answer choice saying that it's just 72.25 feet. Okay, that's not true. It's 72.25 feet squared. So just be very careful with that. I am not going to try to trick you on that, but they may do that on the EOC. So far, so good. Okay. What shape is number 2? Triangle. So look up at your formula for area of a triangle. It says area is equal to 1/2 base times height. So we keep the 1/2. What is the value of my base here? 15. And again, the height is going to be the side that is perpendicular to that. What is the length of the segment in this picture that is perpendicular to 15? 21.3. Okay. So once I have it all plugged into my formula, I can use my calculator. Now to enter 1/2, I can do that as a decimal pretty easily, right? What is half of a dollar? 50 cents. So 1/2 as a decimal is 0.5. You could also enter it as the fraction 1/2 if you want to. It's just sometimes easier to do 0.5. So we're going to go 0.5 times 15 times 21.3. And that gives me 159.75, and then my units are meters squared. Okay, again, I am not going to count it wrong if you don't put the meters squared. Just know that they will be looking for that on the EOC. So far, so good. Okay, you got to identify the shape and then know which formula to use from there. Try 3. That is a parallelogram. Your formula for your parallelogram is the one that's right up under the triangle in your top part. What shape is this? Parallelogram. And the formula for area of a parallelogram is base times height. What is the base in this picture? And what is the height? Okay, so then I just go to my calculator. And we get 91.59, and my units would be inches squared. Right, let me ask you a question. Hold on just a second. Let me draw. Well, I'll ask you a question. What shape is number 4? The circle. It's important that we know the parts of a circle. Okay, that middle is my center. That is what everything is the same distance from. I'm going to draw two segments, and I want to talk about what they are called. Do you notice the difference in these two segments? One of them goes completely through the circle. One of them only goes halfway. What is this one called? Diameter. Yep. Okay. The diameter is a segment that goes completely across the circle through the center. Okay. Is the diameter part of my formula for area of a circle? Is there a D in the formula for area of a circle? No. This one starts at the center and only goes halfway. What is that one called? Radius. Okay, so when you're looking at finding the area of a circle, you only want the radius, not the diameter. How much do you think this is of that whole length? Half of it. Okay, so if they give you the diameter, you have to first find the radius by taking half of whatever the diameter is. If they give you the radius, then you're straight. You've got exactly what you need. What did they give me in number 4? Did they give me the diameter going all the way across the circle, or just the radius, which is halfway across the circle? The diameter. So the very first thing I need to do is I need to figure out the radius. Which is going to be half of the diameter. If my diameter is 26 yards, how many yards would the radius be? 13. Is everybody okay with how we got that? So looking at the formula for area of a circle, it is pi times radius squared. So what I'm going to do is plug in my number. And I told you anything that has a circle in it, we're going to leave an exact form, which means that pi symbol is going to stay in the answer. So what I want you to do is in your calculator, do 13 squared. Okay, you can just type in 13 and hit the x squared button, or you can just do 13 times 13. Either way. What does that give me? 169. So the way we're going to write that is we're going to write it as 169 pi. That is what I mean by exact answers. And I forgot my units. Sorry. And that will be yards squared. Okay. 169 pi is what I'm talking about when I say leave it in exact form. If I put pi in there, we're going to get a decimal and we're going to have to round. Rounding is not exact. Okay. So anytime it says exact, I'm talking specifically about circles, and I want that pi symbol left in the answer. So far, so good. All right, hold off on 5. We're going to do that one together. What I want you to do is I want you to try 6, 7, and 8 really quick. Okay, hold off on 5. We'll come back to that. I want you to try 6, 7, and 8 really quick. 6, 7, 8. You got a calculator, you got your formulas. Plug and chug. Come back to 5 because that's the trapezoid. It's a little bit more complicated. Remember, your base and your height have to be perpendicular. Specifically on number 7, that is a triangle. Your height may not be inside the triangle. They may show you your height on the outside of a triangle with a dotted line. Okay, we are not having fire drill now. They have rescheduled it. We're done. What shape is it? So, what's your base? I'm sorry. We should be working on 6, 7, and 8. What shape is number 6? Rectangle. And a rectangle is just like a parallelogram. Base times height, length times width, whatever you want to call them. What is the base in this one? It doesn't really matter, right? We're going to go 3.7 times 10.5, or I can do 10.5 times 3.7, either way. And we get 38.85, kilometers squared.
I thought it was add, there's a plus here.
There's a plus. Oh, that's for the perimeter in that area. Does that make sense? All right, what shape is number 7? Triangle, right? So again, the formula for triangle is area is equal to 1/2 base times height. And we talked about the base and the height being perpendicular. Sometimes in these pictures, whether it's a parallelogram or a triangle or any other picture, sometimes they will have dotted lines outside of your picture that are perpendicular. So has everybody noticed this dotted line outside of my triangle? And it's perpendicular to that bottom part there. So that 14 is going to be what in my triangle? The base or the height? The height. Okay, so we're going to put 14 there. And what is it perpendicular to? What side of the triangle is it perpendicular to? 29.5. So I'm going to go 1/2 times 29.5 times 14. Okay, that slanted part, the 37.2, that's just extra information. So again, for 0.5, we go, for 1/2, we do 0.5 times 29.5 times 14. And that is going to give me an area of 206.5 inches squared.
It's 7.2.
You only need the base and the height. Okay, they just gave you extra. Okay. What shape is number 8? Parallelogram. And again, that's formula is base times height, and those are the ones that are perpendicular to each other. Think about measuring your height. It has to be straight up and down. What number in this picture would be my height? 16.1. Okay, so there's my height right there. What about my base? What would that be? 11.8. So we are just going to multiply the 11.8 times the 16.1. $189.98 meters squared. Should this be difficult if I give you the formulas? No, you just have to be able to pick out what shape it is and know which formula to use. All right, let's go back to 5. What shape is that? Starts with a T. Trapezoid. Okay. So look back at the top. Your trapezoid is here. So that's the formula that we're going to be using. So the formula is area equals 1/2 times my height times my 2 bases added together. So what we're going to do is we're going to first just fill in all of those numbers. Again, the height is always going to be perpendicular to the base. What is the height in this picture? What's perpendicular? What segment has perpendicular on it? 16.5, 19, 27, or 21, or 16? 16. Okay, so my height is this part right here in the middle. It is perpendicular to my bases. And then what we do is we're going to add the 2 parallel sides. Those are my 2 bases. 2 parallel sides. 27 is one of them. What's the other? What is 27 parallel to? Parallel. 19. So we're going to go 27 plus 19. Here's what I want you to enter in the calculator so we don't have so much work to do. I want you to enter everything as I write it. I want you to do 0.5. Everybody typing in the calculator 0.5. Open a parenthesis. The parenthesis is right there above 8. Everybody see the open parenthesis? Then we're going to put in 16. And then we're going to close the parenthesis. Then we're going to open another parenthesis. And we're going to enter 27 plus 19. And then close that parenthesis. Your calculator knows that you are multiplying and you're putting numbers next to parentheses. So 0.5 times 16 with my parentheses. Open another parentheses, do 27 plus 19. Close that parenthesis. And hit equal. $368? Yeah, sorry, I couldn't understand what you're saying. Did everybody get 368? So the area is going to be 368 centimeters squared. So when you have a lot going on, if you just enter the calculator exactly as you write it with parentheses, then it will do all the work for you. So far, so good. All right, let me just ask you a question on number 9. What is that shape? A circle, but how much of a circle is it? It's only half of it, right? So in order to find the area of this, we are going to use the circle area formula. And that formula is area is equal to pi times radius squared. What is my radius this time? 17, yep. So we're going to go area is equal to pi times 17 squared. So in your calculator, do 17 times 17. What's 17 times 17? 200 and, can't write. 289 pi. But that's for the whole circle. So what do you think I should do with that now? Divided by 2. So what I want you to do is do 289 divided by 2. And we're still going to leave the pi symbol behind that. And then that would be feet squared. Okay, it's only half of a circle. So once we find the area of the circle, we're going to cut it in half, and that will be the area of that shape. So far, so good. I want you to try 10, but I first want to know what shape is that? Trapezoid, okay? This trapezoid just happens to be turned on its side. You're going to do the same stuff you did in question 5. The only difference is your picture has turned sideways. It is 1/2 the height times the two bases added together. 1/2 height times my two bases added together. Remember, your bases are the parallel sides. The base is going to be perpendicular. The height is going to be perpendicular to those bases. Let's say this correctly. The bases are parallel. The height is perpendicular to the bases. What is my height? 7, 9, 13, or 5? Which one is perpendicular to two other parts? 7 is perpendicular to one of them. 5. Okay. Think about this. Your two parallel sides, the sides that do not touch, those are your bases. So your height has to be the distance between those two bases. It just so happens that they turn this trapezoid on its side. So this is my height, and these are my bases. Does that make sense? The two parallel sides, the sides that do not touch, they do not slant, those are your bases. The height is going to be the distance between those. So we're going to plug this in. 5 for H, 7 for B1, 13 for B2. And I want you to enter it just like you did with this one, just with the new numbers. Okay? So you're going to go 0.5, open your parenthesis, put in 5, close your parenthesis, open another parenthesis, 7 plus 13 or 13 plus 7, close that parenthesis, and we get an area of 50, and it's millimeters squared. Okay, so we've got parallelograms, whether they're rectangle, squares, or regular parallelograms, trapezoids, circles, and triangles. Now we got to flip it over. We got 2 more shapes. The shapes look a little bit different, but their formula is exactly the same. That's why we're saving these 2 for last. Is everybody ready? Flip over your paper. We are going to be talking about a kite and a rhombus. All right. A rhombus is what we're filling in first. Is a parallelogram with 4 congruent sides. You can see in the picture of the rhombus there that they have all 4 sides marked congruent. While a kite is a quadrilateral with 2 pairs of parallel sides. I'm trying to write the number and the word. 2 pairs of congruent sides. So in a kite, you have the 2 short sides that are congruent and the 2 long sides that are congruent, like it's marked in your picture. And the area of both the kite and the rhombus are related to their diagonals. Okay, so if I'm looking at a rhombus, my diagonals would go from corner to corner. Okay, just like a kite, my diagonals would go from corner to corner. Now, we learned a while back about the diagonals of both a kite and a rhombus. We'll talk about those once we get to it. The area of a rhombus or a kite is half the product of the diagonals. What does it mean to find the product? Add, subtract, multiply, divide. Product means multiply, okay? So it's your two diagonals. It's half. Here's our formula. Area equals 1/2. That's a 2. Times diagonal 1 times diagonal 2. Okay, it is literally 1/2 the product of the two diagonals. What is the length of one of the diagonals? What is the length of the other diagonals? Multiply and take half. Now, we might want to make a note. In a rhombus, the diagonals bisect each other. What does that mean? They cut each other in half, okay? Sometimes they'll only give you what half of that diagonal is, so you have to know that the diagonals are bisected. And in a kite, the short diagonal is bisected. Okay, not the long one, but the short diagonal. So in a rhombus, both of the diagonals bisect each other. In a kite, it's only the short diagonal that has been bisected. Are we ready? Okay, so with, I was going to say number A. With letter A, it says find the area of the following rhombus. So again, that tells us it is a rhombus and that my diagonals have been bisected. So what I'm seeing in my picture is this part is marked as how long? 7. So what would the other side be? 7. So I'm going to go ahead and write that down. What would that make that total diagonal? 14. Okay. And then if I'm looking at the top part, how much is that part of that diagonal? 6. So what would the bottom half be? 6, which gives me a total diagonal of 12, right? 6 plus 6. And so then we can go to our formula. It is 1/2 diagonal 1 times diagonal 2. So go to your calculator. 0.5 times 14 times 12 gives me a total area of 84 millimeters squared. All right, try B. They give you the length of both diagonals in full. Those have not been cut in half. One of the diagonals is 10. The other is 8. So plug those into your formula. 1/2. One diagonal times the other diagonal. And then you can go ahead and do the last two as well. Those are the kites. The formula is the same. 1/2. One diagonal times the other. And it looks to me in these pictures, they have given you the entire diagonal for both of those kites. everybody tell the difference in A and B, how you can see that A only gives you part of the diagonal, whereas B gives you the whole thing? Okay. So 1/2 diagonal 1 times diagonal 2. One diagonal is 10, the other diagonal is 8. If I do that in my calculator, I get 40 meters squared. Are you sure you didn't put 5 instead of 0.5? Times 10 times 8? And then 8? Mm-hmm. All right, and again, the next two are kites. The formula is the same. Do I have the full diagonal in both? Yes. All right, so we're going to go area equals 1/2. One of my diagonals is 16. The other one is 9. So I'm going to do, if you put the parentheses in, you don't have to hit multiply. Okay. But it does. Yeah. That's why if you put the parentheses, you don't have to put multiply. Right. All right, 1/2 times 16 times 9. How much? 72. 72, yep. So it's going to be 72 inches squared. And then with B, they gave me both diagonals here as well. So we're going to go 1/2 times 17 times 21. And this time I'm going to get a decimal because it wasn't an even number. Meters squared.